I'll invite my panel just to stay here as we have our concluding remarks from a couple of high-profile speakers within the Society. First of all, I'd love to welcome Jack de Groot as the new, I can't say emerging CEO, the new CEO of the St Vincent de Paul Society in New South Wales. I met Jack on Tuesday and worked with him all through Wednesday, and he's pretty good, actually, I reckon. So let's hear from him. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. When you're introduced as pretty good, it's a bit intimidating now what to do. I want to just tell you a little bit of what the Society does in terms of action. But I want to put that in the context of the day that some of our colleagues, or the week that some of our colleagues have had. These comments are dedicated in the memory of Kat Giuliano. Kat was the manager of our Ozanam Learning Centre just down the street at Woolloomooloo. And Kat tragically died on Tuesday, a young woman. And we talked this evening about the need for tailored services meeting the needs of women. And as I listened to Kat's colleagues talk about Kat and what she meant to them today, she talked about how she brought a change at the Ozanam Learning Centre. The Learning Centre is next door to the Talbot. You could imagine that most of the clientele are the men who know the Talbot well. Kat saw that, and Kat took to heart our, I suppose, lived activism of hospitality and made welcome the women into the Ozanam Learning Centre. And she, like many of our members, our volunteers and staff, those 20,000 people who serve within the St Vincent de Paul Society, know the realities each day of the lack of affordable housing and homelessness. They're frontline people. Our members, as they go out each day, and we heard the story of Donna as well, meet over 600 people in a voluntary capacity, but people who are either homeless, struggling with the fear of homelessness, living with the fear of not paying their bills, and living with the anxiety of making unacceptable choices between quality food, electricity, water supply, or the rent. So each day our activism is to respond. The Society, as many of you know, has its great motto of a hand up. But often our days are about a hand out. And that hand out often infuriates our members, our volunteers and staff to make sure that there is a true hand up. It's those over 200,000 visits each year of being in relationship with people that gives a credibility not just to the statistics, but the aspirations of the men and women of this state who fear homelessness and crave what is their right. 42% of the people who our volunteer members visited in their home in the last financial year declared to us that over 40% of their fortnightly income was spent on accommodation. And 62% of those we met were women. That's who our members meet. In our specialist homelessness services, we provide all sorts of men and women at the risk of homelessness a service. There are over 30 dedicated accommodation services for men and women and children and families. And you've heard Michelle talk about the particular strength and uniqueness of our service for aged women, or women aged is a wrong expression, just older women struggling with the basic needs. What often infuriates the colleagues is that we provide 250,000 beds annually in the Society here in New South Wales. We don't want to provide 250,000 beds throughout the year. We want to provide homes. A bed is not the solution. a sustainable and an affordable housing solution is the need and the right. And we work with those, as you've heard, who live with realities of domestic, family violence, deal with the realities of youth as they struggle for identity and a sense of home in homes that fracture. We deal with young men and young women as they make their identity, and all in common have this ache for home. Our clients range from the low to the high needs, to the simple to the extremely complex needs. Those who live with realities of mental health struggles, with substance abuse, with behavioural and with physical health issues. And all of those conditions only made worse by the realities of housing insecurity. We have an activism that has formed our own community housing company in Amelie Housing. And we're currently in negotiations, and we hope a successful tender process with the government to provide another 500 affordable housing units throughout the state. Susan talked about the need for targets in inclusionary zoning, that idea of the 15% target, the 20% target. The Greater Sydney Commission launched its planning document today. It set an insipid and spineless target of 5 to 10%. That sounds familiar, doesn't it, Susan? But when that's seen as ticking the box, we have a fundamental problem about the move to service delivery to a fundamental change of what's right for our community and those most on the margins or threatened with a life on the margins. Earlier this week, I had the privilege of sitting down with one of our corporate leaders in Australia, Alison Watkins, the CEO of Coca-Cola Amatil. Alison had partaken in our CEO's sleep out. Telling the story of homelessness is hard work. Not everyone wants to know. And Alison talked about her experience the last couple of years undertaking the sleep out. It's just that one occasion, or a couple of times in life, to actually try to walk a mile in the shoes of those who are so often stigmatised, hidden or despised. That even our CEOs of the largest corporations of this nation want to make a contribution in terms of advocacy, not just in terms of philanthropy. And when women like Alison know that homelessness can impact anyone, then it is the bringing together of not just the members of the St Vincent de Paul Society and other community-based NGOs. It's not just bringing together governments, whether local, state and federal. It is also the commitment to invest in a social change by our largest enterprises. Homelessness can impact anyone, and therefore it's always an issue for each one of us. So as our action moves from service to activism and advocacy, I'd like to introduce Peter McNamara, our Vice President for Social Justice within the St Vincent de Paul Society of New South Wales.
Thanks, Jack. Look, we know we have to plan for an ageing community, but when we hear, so ably articulated by Susan, that 500,000 older women face housing stress in the next 2 decades, we come to understand how urgent the need is. Look, the speeches were thoroughly engaging. You all so well articulated the issue and some of the solutions. Now, our task is to keep those issues at the forefront of the minds of our decision makers. So before we rush to go and grab some food and drinks in the next room, I should just outline what social justice means for us in the St Vincent de Paul Society, our Right to Home campaign, and of course, thank our panel. Dennis Walsh left no doubt about the breadth and reach of the St Vincent de Paul Society. We assist people in disadvantage in 420 communities in New South Wales. He also mentioned just some of the services. With our frontline services and our members and volunteer network, we assisted over 400,000 people in the last year. So since our inception here over 180 years ago, our members have been compelled to do two things: to act and to speak up. We can't just simply assist people who seek our help. We need to make sure we tackle the reasons why they seek our help in the first place. So this is why the Social Justice Committee on the St Vincent de Paul Society have been working so hard to share the stories that they hear, that they see, that they feel when working with these 400,000 people. So our social justice statement has three key priorities. There's copies out the back there and it's on our website. Affordable housing and homelessness, of course, that's why we're here tonight. Asylum seekers and refugees. We recognise the humanity of the people who seek our protection. While we don't have all the answers, we do listen to their stories and put ourselves in their shoes. We call on the government to cease offshore detention and to bring all asylum seekers, particularly children, to the Australian mainland. The third big issue is energy affordability. Marlene spoke about the challenges of someone who's working and trying to afford energy. 10% of all requests we receive are energy related. Energy is an enormous cost and second only housing for many we assist. We say that market contracts should be simpler and concessions should be extended to all. We have other recommendations here too. But tonight the big issue is affordable housing and homelessness. And as an organisation, we're compelled to assist, but also to tackle the reasons. So the lack of affordable housing is one of these reasons. The government needs to hear it. It needs to hear that thousands of people care and want action. New South Wales can do better. It can do much better so that everyone gets a home and gets a fair go. We have the strongest economy, the strongest budget position of all the states in Australia. Thousands of new units are being built in areas close to transport and jobs, but none of them will end up being affordable unless we change the rules. So tonight, we're launching our Right to Home campaign, and it's supported by a petition to the New South Wales Government. And what are we asking the New South Wales Government to do? We're asking it to deliver more affordable housing. The problem is complex, the solution even more so. However, we say one essential step is to change our planning rules. Those rules should require that at least 15% of all new major residential developments are set aside for affordable housing. South Australia is doing it. Other major cities like London and New York are doing it. So let's do it for New South Wales. As Susan Ryan said, she said, where is the policy drive? Where is the political leadership? Okay. So please sign our petition today and go home with a stack of them. Get your friends, colleagues and family to sign it too, because without that, there's going to be no policy drive. There's going to be no political leadership. Now, some thank yous. Thank you first to our dedicated members, volunteers and supporters, many of whom are here tonight. The members of the Society of St Vincent de Paul do dedicate themselves wholly to offering a hand up to those in need. Because you, the members and volunteers, are out visiting people, often in their homes, it's you who see the trends before the rest of the sector. Thanks for continuing to raise your voice about this and other issues you see so that collectively we can speak up and make the changes needed. Thanks also to everyone who worked behind the scenes to organise this event. Finally, thanks so much all members of our panel for sharing your ideas, expertise and passion. Susan Ryan, Gay Mason, Catherine McKernan and Michelle Anderson, thank you. Here's a small gift, but you've given us, I think, as the greatest gift of all, your time, and you've given us, with your gift, this rare time ourselves to reflect on an issue that otherwise may not have got our attention as clearly and as importantly. So last, thanks to all of you here and our collaborators for coming tonight. It does mean that momentum's growing. I'm excited to be with you here because I think it is an important juncture. So the turnout's terrific. Stay a bit, get some drinks, make connections, and have a chat to me, Mary or Felix about this Right to Home campaign. There's a social justice table just outside where there's a lot more information. Now, getting your drinks, travelling home, getting up tomorrow for another day, let's not waste this moment. Let's not forget the vision and imperative of the Society of St Vincent de Paul, as written in our rule and indeed shared in the broader community. We envisage a more just society in which the rights, responsibilities and development of all people are promoted. We in the Society of St Vincent de Paul, like Rosalie Rendu, we're not here for ourselves. We're here for others, and no others are those that are so hard up, they're so desperate that they have to turn to us, in the words of one of our speakers, as a charity, as a last resort to ask for help. We owe it to them, those that can't get a safe, affordable place, home, to be tireless in speaking for them, whose rights are not promoted, to our neighbours, to our work colleagues, and particularly to our politicians and business leaders, those that can make real our shared vision of a more just society.